you're about to see is Innovation for National Security Showcase, which is a culmination of 10 weeks of hard work our student interns went through.
Thank you everybody for being here tonight. This is probably the largest crowd we've had in i4NS, but so good job on the team for marketing and distribution. So my name is Rachel Costello. I'm the leader for We're excited to present to you our cohort for fall quarters. They've been working very diligently with the problems and source from our local commanders. And one was actually a problem that we worked on a quarter ago. And this quarter, the special quarter, is currently a ONR funded and future award teams. And the idea is to instruct and prepare, equip them, and for them to become a better and more informed researcher, and maybe perhaps going to national service. So we started out 3 years ago with 2 teams and 8 students. And here we are, 3 years later with got up to 30 students and 5 teams, and that would not have been possible with huge support from these Barry, and of course very steadfast support from Paul Rowan up there and Annie. And of course my faculty, advisor, Parks Wands, and Vice Admiral Thomas, my fellow manager as one of our business marketing. So without further ado, let's get the first team up.
First team is actually be Marine Team Blaze Beaters.
All right, I forgot. I just want to make it.
Make sure you sit down. First thing that's going to come up will be video. Go ahead, let that play. And then just go through there. You'll have to use the microphone. Okay. Hopefully the screen share is still going.
Okay, and Stu,
Hello, yeah, we are Team Blaze Beaters, and we worked very closely with MCAS over this last 10 weeks to work on an issue surrounding wildfires. We have an intro videos that will play now, and then we'll get into our presentation. Thank you all so much for being here.
Marine Corps Air Station Miramar is a part of the daily life for those that live and work in the San Diego region. The sound of jets soaring through the sky and ospreys hovering over the I-15 are commonplace. Despite its military might, MCAS Miramar is still challenged by an issue very familiar to Californians: wildfires.
Fire crews are working to put out a fire that's burned more than 100 acres now on the Marine Corps base. Tonight, we are learning the fire was caused by a detonation during a training exercise. It started around 2:30 this afternoon.
MCAS Miramar has over 17,000 acres of wildlands, primarily covered in vegetation. This land exists as the landing flight path for aircraft, while also containing rifle ranges, explosive ordnance, and power lines. These factors, in conjunction with Southern California's weather conditions, add up to the potential for large and difficult to manage fires. Over the past 10 weeks, our team has been learning about the unique challenges that face MCAS Miramar's fire department. They work closely with San Diego Fire and Rescue to respond to fires and emergencies on and off the base. However, their working relationship is hampered by challenges in communication between the two departments. Engaging in joint response to an incident, the departments communicate primarily through a chain of phone calls. This results in low situational awareness and a greater room for error in a time-sensitive and potential life-saving situation. Our team recommends that MCAS Miramar Fire Department adopts an emerging civilian technology called Tablet Command. The application can be downloaded onto any cellular-enabled iPads and is enabled through a licensing fee. The low-cost and easily implementable solution would allow the departments to see each other's vehicle locations on a map and view the same incidences in real time. Thank you for your interest in our project, and we are very excited to share with you our journey.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. So that was just a brief overview of what we've been working on, and we'll dive into it more now. First off, to start though, Yeah, this is our team. So my name is Matthew. We've got Amon, we've got Chow Ann, and John Pierre right here. We've also had wonderful support from our mentor, Jeff Klein, who's currently present, Lieutenant Colonel Weingart here, and Officer Silicato, who is the fire captain and our primary contact with San Diego Fire. He was unfortunately not able to make it tonight.
So as previously mentioned, the fire problem at MCAS Miramar is significantly larger than most people realize. Just this past July, they had a fire that burned over 100 acres. So they have 17,500 acres of undeveloped land, which is already a huge place for fires. And then the east side presents a really big risk due to the power lines, which are in very... Perfect. Sorry, you guys can hear me now, right? Okay, perfect. So the east side presents a high risk due to the power lines and the military activity, specifically the EOD ranges and the firing ranges. And since they're so far away, it's just very hard to fight fires there. At any given point, there's 21,550 people on MCAS and 450 structures, which means there's a huge risk of property damage and personnel damage.
Excellent. And then so we've got our overall problem that we are looking at throughout this project, and we'll expand on this throughout our presentation. We honed in on the MCAS Miramar's Fire Department and City of San Diego firefighters frequently respond together to wildfires as well as other structure fires and emergencies on and off the base. Currently, they communicate through a chain of phone calls. Their dispatch will call MCAS's dispatch, and they have to communicate back and forth. Their computer systems are not integrated as San Diego's is with Coronado or other civilian fire departments. So cybersecurity concerns have hampered that because the military is worried, rightly so, of systems, other computer systems touching their system. What this leads to is misallocation of resources. Too many or too few firefighters are deployed to instances, and sometimes not in a timely manner. Firefighters are having outdated information as they're approaching. As you saw on the video, MCAS is very large. So it takes a long time sometimes for firefighters to get to scenes, and fires can rapidly change. They need up-to-date information. And there's increased liability for MCAS if something goes wrong during a response due to a communication error. Our solution, and to address these problems, was we honed in on deploying a tablet-based app to all of the MCAS fire units. The San Diego Fire is already currently using this called tablet command. We would provide locations of MCAS vehicles as well as real-time incident reports to increase communication and also visibility.
So the problem statement we started off with is to better identify risk, reduce response time, and improve mitigation efficiency, especially for those committed to fighting fires, as they're required to face significant challenges, but they're left with very little room for error, but much room for improvement. Over the past 10 weeks, we've revised our statement to make it more focused on improving resource allocation, facilitating a smoother information flow during emergencies, and enhancing overall response coordination with their civilian partners, mainly using the tablet command app.
And then here's an overlay of the two departments. MCAS Fire and San Diego Fire both still in the departments. MCAS though has only 2 stations, while San Diego has 51. And as you can see, the amount of resources they have is very different. Both departments though are part of the San Diego Metro Mutual Aid Agreement. They have agreement so they will respond to each other's various emergencies as well as all these other cities. And when they're responding, a typical joint response on MCAS base for a wildfire will look like MCAS will need to dedicate that amount, and San Diego will have to dedicate that. And you see, a lot of resources. There needs to be a high level of coordination to utilize those all effectively. And then here you can see this is a map of Miramar where the 2 MCAS fire stations are located. And as you can see, all around is a number of San Diego fire stations that all could potentially be responding on MCAS base. And additionally, MCAS can go off and help and assist any of those firefighters at any of those stations.
Okay, let us tell you about our journey we had. On the first week and second, we introduced our problem statement, and we had our first interview with the Lieutenant Colonel Weingart that helps us to dive deeper to our problem statement. And we also learned more about 3 important steps of fire emergencies: prevention, detection, and firefighting. With that, we tried to brainstorm and find out which part of these 3 steps causing the problem, and we narrowed it down to detection. And with that having in our mind, we try to question why wildfire is a concern for MCAS Miramar and how we can break the chain to improve the outputs. And meanwhile, we are introduced to another system named Alert California that developed with the UCSD that allows with using a camera to detect fires in land fires, wildfires.
After our interview with Lieutenant Colonel Weingart, we decided to visit Fire Station 14 in order to get their perspective and their opinion on our specific project. And when we brought up the issue of detection and how, in our opinions, in our current process, expanding technologies like cameras, for example, might help mitigate the spread of fires. They actually kind of shut that idea down, and they actually, in their Chief Eddie and the firefighters that were in attendance pointed out that, hey, detection is actually probably the easiest part of firefighting because we have modern technologies like phones and social media. Instead, as we were talking more about them, we figured out that the issue was mainly communication and how they expressed that communication was really hard with MCAS Miramar because the DoD restricts MCAS from using certain technologies because of cybersecurity concerns. And so as a result, the San Diego fire stations have to rely on radio networks in order to communicate with MCAS. And this becomes really frustrating when it comes to responding to fires on MCAS base because like the dirt roads and the terrain and just the overall isolated location that MCAS is located in is really hard to navigate without those certain technologies. In situations where emergency personnel like firefighters are responding to a certain incident, they would use something called the computer-aided dispatch system, also known as a CAT, which is a software that a lot of emergency personnel and first responders use in order to kind of record and display information onto a specific map. And this information can include things like the location of the incident, how many people were injured, and how many resources are needed there. So like, for example, how many firefighters are needed and how many medics are needed. And so because the MCAS CAT system and the San Diego CAT system is separated because of these cybersecurity concerns, MCAS is not on the San Diego CAT map, which means that it's just without that visual component to help guide the San Diego firefighters to MCAS Miramar, it's a lot more difficult in general. And so after receiving that groundbreaking information from Fire Station 14, we decided to visit MCAS Miramar to kind of get their side of the story and also to just see what in their opinion, what the biggest issue in firefighting may be. And they actually affirmed a lot of what San Diego Fire Station 14 said, which is that better communication and better integration of their CAD systems would just be world changing for firefighting in general. But because of the big cybersecurity issue that they have and the concerns that the DoD, aka the Department of Defense, has around opening up and connecting to a civilian system might open them up to more vulnerabilities and hacking, that obstacle has unfortunately not been tackled.
So in weeks 5 and 6, we were introduced to 2 new technologies, mainly from Central Square and Tech. So Central Square is the company that actually manufactures San Diego Fire's CAD system. And they have a technology called Unify, which is specifically designed to connect 2 CAD systems together, but it's never been used in a military standpoint. So we wanted to explore that further. Additionally, in week 6, we met Captain Cohen from Camp Pendleton, and he introduced us to TAC, which is a current DoD off-the-shelf solution, which basically is used not specifically in firefighting, but it is used to increase situational awareness for troops through multiple forms of communication, including vehicle locations. So yeah, we just decided to explore both of those.
And then coming into week 7, we actually got to go back to Miramar and base HQ here. And we presented up here on the top right, we sat down with a lot of different stakeholders, including Lieutenant Colonel Weingart, able to bring as well as Chief Allen over at MCAS Fire. We got to present, okay, full integration of CAD system. Is that possible? And they're like, that's not going to happen anytime soon, especially not in the 10 weeks that our project is occurring. And that's a very long-term, hopefully someday. We also, does tactical SOCIT, does that, having situational awareness do that? And very lukewarm response because it's untested in that realm, and it also is something that San Diego Fire would have to adopt as well. So not necessarily the most ideal thing, but they said they would have a high interest in an existing tablet application used by San Diego Fire, for incident management and vehicle location, tablet command that we previously mentioned. It's a mobile tool. Chief Allen, right there, he already had an example of it on his phone, but they didn't have the licensing fees that it was fully used. Like, hey, we're pretty interested in this technology. Could this do a similar thing that everyone's trying to achieve? And one of those main things is having an AVL, an automatic vehicle locator, and there's currently hardware forms that they all have, but with the tablet command, you can turn on location services and have a device-based form of that. Much cheaper, much easier to maintain, and much easier to install. And so that's where we then took our investigation. On an extra note on this, we ultimately got to meet Colonel Liddell, the commanding officer of MCAS Base, and present our ideas to him, and he was very supportive and very much encouraging to take this and pursue how we could integrate tablet command with MCAS Base.
And on week 8, we back to the station 14, and we had an interview with Chief Eddie and Captain Oscar to investigate more about APL, tablet of command, the cost, and how we can start the first phase in Miramar MCAS. By having this in our mind, we learned that tablet of command is our best option to go with, and the reason is low cost, easy to launch, and also easy to launch and easy to implement, and they can choose the option they want through the tablet of command. And the only next step is to MCAS Miramar purchase a license or joint license with the San Diego department. And with that, they can enable their location of their vehicles on the tablet of command, and they can share their information and access to the information and data of the city of San Diego. Therefore, it allows them to have a better communication in long term.
So based on everything we've learned so far, we have 2 specific recommendations for MCAS Miramar in order to improve their communication issue. The first being installing device-based AVL, aka device-based automatic vehicle locators, as opposed to hardwire AVLs. Because hardwire AVLs are a lot more, they take more time to install physically into the fire vehicle. And on top of that, they're just a lot more expensive to maintain over time. Meanwhile, device-based AVLs, they're a lot cheaper to implement, and they achieve the same results. And regarding tablet command, we recommend that MCAS Miramar become users on the San Diego tablet command account, because this will allow them to not only share their information, share their location to the San Diego fire stations, but also be able to access all the live incident information in the San Diego metro area. If MCAS were to acquire their own tablet command account, they can share their location, yes, but they can't access the live incident data, which is their main need. So becoming users on the San Diego tablet command account would just fit all their needs more well. Oh, and here is a kind of like a diagram of where we currently are. And here is a visual representation of where we want to be. So as you can see, the San Diego tablet command and the MCAS tablet command are interacting and sharing information with each other, which is what we really want.
Yeah, so over the past 10 weeks, we built this MMC, but the main thing that you need to focus on is our beneficiaries. So we have Chief Eddie, who was the highest point of contact we had at San Diego Fire, and Captain Allen, who was the highest point of contact at MCAS Fire.
And finally, the budget that we're looking at for this is $500 per iPad if they're an add-on to the San Diego Fire's account, which is further why we recommend that option, because it will only be roughly $3,000 a year to achieve the goal that MCAS Fire wants to. And then our next steps, so tablet command demo for MCAS, as well as explore if other military bases in the San Diego region would be interested in this technology.
Yeah, and overall, lastly, we just wanted to say a thank you to everyone that have attended and have just listened to our presentation. And we especially wanted to say a big thank you to all of our wonderful supporters, all the people that have helped us throughout this project, in particular, our wonderful mentor, Jeff Klein, the i4NS teaching team, our peers, and all of our interviewees who took time out of their day to kind of give their perspective and help us in our solution development. So thank you. Without you, this project would not have been possible.
We'll take any questions now. Yes.
Okay, just one comment. I really think you have the right answer. You need to put it up front.
Mhm.
Okay? And this is gonna be kind of tough love. Presentation went too long.
Mhm.
You've got a great message. You put it up as a bottom line up front, because I guarantee you, when you talk to anybody who's associated with the Department of Defense and all the money that comes with it, they've got an attention span of a gnat. Okay, so you've got to be able to get in, be 3 B's. Be brief, be brilliant, be gone. Okay. I thought it was a great presentation. It just ran too long. but
Absolutely.
Really well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was a great presentation. For our next presentation, it's gonna be marine mammal monitoring.
Yeah.
Sure.
I just want to say, that has been incredibly helpful for me as the air station commander. For the other groups, I did not know I had that problem. And I am absolutely going to spend $3,000 as soon as I get to my office tomorrow morning to build a solution. This never happens. You never have an inexpensive solution that solves your problem, and you just reveal it to me. So thank you very much to that team. You have solved a problem that I didn't know I had, and now it will be solved tomorrow morning. So.
Thank you, Tanner. Thank you. For our next team, it's gonna be marine mammal monitoring.
Alan, do you want to control the slides?
8 minutes, no questions.
8 minutes.
No, no questions. No, it's not. Yeah.
I can see.
Okay.
Gotta-
Use the down arrow. Down arrow. Yeah.
For the mic purpose.
Then you have to get in line.
Yeah.
But like you have to keep the screen.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah. Yeah.
I think you can just consider.
Is what? All right.
Keep it going. Over here? All right, let's.
Hi, we are the Marine Mammal Monitoring Team, aka M-Cubed, and we are a student project team within the AIP Program Innovation for National Defense, or i4NS for short. We were given a problem statement from the Point Mugu Sea Range Sustainability Office to develop efficient technology to detect marine mammals in the PMSR testing area in real time to reduce the number of marine mammals impacted by testing.
The Point Mugu Sea Range, encompassing around 36,000 square miles, has testing and training events scheduled throughout the area. So we needed a way to cover the farthest regions with real-time marine mammal detection as well as data collection. And why is mammal detection important before conducting events? Some of the events pose a high risk to marine life, and when things go wrong, it can lead to something like this.
PMSR has a current solution that uses aerial surveys conducted by a marine biologist via aircraft to visually observe marine mammal presence in the range. This solution is currently effective for maintaining an acceptable impact number within the guidelines as laid out by the National Marine Fisheries Services. However, the use of an aircraft increases cost and limits mammal detection. It is not uncommon for the aircraft to need maintenance every 25 hours per the FAA. With these limitations in mind, there is value in an inexpensive solution that requires less mobilization of personnel.
We were not the first group to research this problem. Another student lead team in 2021 recommended combining mooring, glider, and aerial technology with the inclusion of NMFS buoys for transmitting real-time data. Their solution was not fully implemented, however, the PSMR Sustainability Office recently purchased 4 wave gliders. Once we learned of this, we decided to focus on both the acoustic packages they could use and on the complementary aerial solutions to replace their manned aerial surveys.
We encountered several technologies in our search for a way to replace the manned aerial surveys. Not only did we have to think about what sensors to use, we also had to think about how those sensors could reach the farthest parts of the range. After several iterations, we were able to come up with a few technologies that, when put together, could work throughout the range to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of the marine mammal surveys.
Throughout this course, we've learned the importance of communicating with people from all aspects of this problem, especially our beneficiaries. Learning about the problem from their point of view and understanding their needs was the highlight of our collective learning as a team. We're so grateful for all of the wonderful discussions we've had that have helped shape what we're presenting to you today. We appreciate the support we have received from our i4NS teaching team, our mentors, and the crucial feedback we receive from our colleagues every week. Thank you for this experience.
Okay. Hello. Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a lovely evening today. We are the marine mammal monitoring team, and our problem statement is that the Point-Magusi range needs to reliably predict and detect the presence of marine mammals on the range in real time in order to successfully conduct testing and training events while avoiding impact on marine life. And our interview count throughout this entire quarter is 21 interviews. And this is our team. So starting with Mina right here. This is Mina right here. And Chris is over here. Yeah. And there's Div on the left there. And Margaret's on my right here. And I'm Alan. Hello. And Natalie's behind me. And in front is our team mentor, Brian, right here. And our faculty advisor is Robert Thomas, also in the front as well. And let's see. So original hypothesis was to combine a use of mooring, glider, and aero technology to expand the depth of mammal detection, combined with the inclusion of national marine fishery services, buoys, for transmitting real-time data.
So as mentioned in our video, we are not the first group to work on this. There was actually another team that worked on this in spring of 2021. And so Rachel was kind enough to give us a list of documents from that team that kind of showed the different progress that they made during that quarter. And some of the things that we use as that currently PMSR, the Point-Magusi range, uses aerial surveys to detect marine mammals. That cost around $40,000 an hour and is considered outdated by a lot of the people that we interviewed. We also learned that the PMSR range is around 36,000 miles, and we kind of got the different contexts for different people we could interview, a different list of technologies, including mooring, buoys, different acoustic packages, and different types of tracking sensors. So one of the things that we first learned the importance of is meeting our problem sponsor and beneficiary discovery. Because before we met with the problem sponsor during the first week or two, we interviewed a lot of experts in innovation and marine mammal tracking, but we didn't really know what the specific scope of our problem was. And so we kind of got a lot of information, but we didn't really know what to do with it, as we didn't know how to apply it to our problem. And so when we finally met with Elizabeth Secord and Corey Scott, two members of the PMSR Sustainability Office, we were able to gain background on the specific problem, which helped us just gain the scope of it. This is just a quick diagram, basically summarizing our journey. So weeks 1 through 3, we interviewed marine mammals and marine mammal researchers and innovation technology experts and went through past team notes. In weeks 4 and 5, we first met with our PMSR Sustainability Office, where we switched to a bigger focus on real-time detection versus predictive modeling. Week 6 and 7 was when we focused on different unmanned aerial vehicles and autonomous underwater vehicles with different imaging and acoustic packages attached to them. And then week 8, we met with the PMSR scheduling office again, where we gave them our current MVP that we had at the time, and we've actually found out that they were going to buy some wave gliders when was interested in the list of acoustic packages, which kind of led to the development of our final MVP.
Okay, so this is our original mission model canvas, and as you can see, it's very bare bones. It wasn't really focused or flushed out yet, and we were still lacking the crucial information we needed with speaking to the PMSR Sustainability Office. This is our current and final mission model canvas, and you can see it's much more organized. It makes a lot more sense. We have a more focused direction. It's specifically in a few main areas. The main being that we now had a very fine-tuned value proposition. Before, we kind of didn't really know what the needs were of the different beneficiaries and people we were working with. So now we've had a more flushed out and focused direction with our value proposition and also our key resources. We now understood who was our key resources, problem sponsors, program managers, and marine biologists that could benefit from this technology. And lastly, we, like I said, we flushed out who our beneficiaries were. We understood who's actually going to be implementing the technology that we propose, which are our test conductor and PMS, our test managers who are conducting and testing the different tests that happen throughout the range. We just got a bit more focused on the budget, exactly what we use to quantify the success of our proposition.
So our first minimum viable product was a notification system that provides real-time notifications of if a marine mammal is expected to enter or has entered the range. We were trying to see what PMSR really needed, if they wanted predictive modeling or real-time solution. And we ended up with both. So the ideal final solution we have now is real-time survey notifications, where you would have a pop-up on a map if a marine mammal is detected, and you could say what species it is. And we would compile that data over time into a long-term compilation that could be used to do predictive modeling, because PMSR already knows basic migration of very common species of whales in the area, so we can improve that for them. And it could be integrated into this. This is the screenshot of PMAP, or the Protective Measures Assessment Protocol. And this is what they use to decide for any given test what mitigations are needed. So by making a predictive model of what mammals would be in the area for their test, they could use that to plan which tests to do when and where in the range. And the technologies we're looking at are a combination of things, as we said in the video. One is to put acoustic packages on wave gliders, because they're going to purchase wave gliders. And the acoustics can let you listen for marine mammal vocalizations underwater, because right now with the surveys, you can only see mammals that go on the surface. And in addition, we would add unmanned aerial survey using a thermal camera. And then we'd employ machine learning to actually identify the species and how many animals are there.
So regarding our minimum viable product, since it's a combination of multiple systems, here are our recommendations for those individual systems to PMSR. So there's an aerial component with the UAV/drone and the thermal cameras. So for the UAV, we have the vanilla unmanned and the VBAC. And for the thermal cameras, we have the Trillium Engineering HD ATCV and the PTCV smart sensor. And for the subsurface component, which would comprise of the wave gliders and the acoustic packages, we based on our interview, we learned that PMSR is in the process of acquiring those. So we'll be talking to them soon regarding that. And regarding our readiness levels of our MVP shown in the previous slide, if we had to measure it on a scale of 1 to 9, 1 being that our product is in the ideation stage and 9 being it's fully ready for deployment. Even though the individual components of our MVP, like the individual hydrophone, the wave gliders, the drones, they themselves have a readiness level of 8 or above, because they are currently used in specific purposes. Our own MVP, since it's not in a prototype form as of now, we estimate a technology readiness level of 3. And based on that, we think that PMSR could use a combination of real-time notifications of marine mammal presence, and as more data is acquired over time through the product, that can also be integrated into some sort of predictive capability for making informed decisions in the future.
So to quickly summarize, we've seen over the course of the past 10 weeks, some pretty large changes in our prompt statement, largely in the kind of realm of being more specific and being more accurate in kind of the needs. Initially, we assumed that we were going to require to look at the entire range. We've understood now that we're mostly focused on events, training, and can kind of hone in on detections in those areas, kind of limiting this impact. You can see our MVP in the bottom corner, and the benefits of this MVP are largely in the realm of reducing price, or reducing cost, reducing the number of manual takes, as well as reducing delayed tests. Tomorrow we are going to present this to PMSR, and this has potential work for to be able to continue developing the webinar. I'd like to thank the team for all their hard work this over the past 10 weeks. There's been a lot of stuff learned, as well as I'd like to acknowledge ONR. A number of the members of this team are funded in our PhD and postdoc research from ONR. I'd like to thank the PMSR and their sustainability office. They spent lots of time with us over the course of these 10 weeks to understand this problem. Of course, we'd like to thank Rachel as well. She's been very informative and very supportive as we developed kind of our understanding here, as well as Brian. Thank you so much for all of your help these 10 weeks. I'd like to thank both of the TAs as well, and our interviewees who took the time to speak with us. Lastly, I'd like to thank all of the class. You guys have given us much insight over this quarter. And thank you all. And I think we'll have opportunities for questions if you want to talk with us afterwards.
I want to thank you all so much for that. It was a great presentation. For our next presentation, it's going to be Team Neurodynamics.
Hello everyone, we are Team Neurodynamics. In our team, we have Gabby, Grisha, Leo, Stephanie, and Yo-Yo. Back in early October, we met for the first time and received the broad topic of treating SOCOM veterans with PTSD through martial arts practices. After conducting a few interviews during our first week, we predicted that martial arts, particularly jiu-jitsu, can be an effective therapeutic solution for PTSD. However, we soon found out that it would be much more complicated.
You see, to obtain a market for creation or innovative endeavor, it needs to have an appropriate and large enough demand and audience field, which we call beneficiaries, and we need to have a product market fit. To narrow our focus, we ended up choosing naval seals because of the availability of naval amphibious base at Coronado and our experience in interviewing retired SEALs.
To specifically learn more about our newly chosen beneficiaries, we interviewed a diverse group of professionals, from martial arts instructors to psychiatrists to VA program managers. At this point, we were still getting mixed signals. Although many of our interviewees supported the idea of martial arts as a helpful resource, we were still left with numerous questions. What martial arts should we focus on? Will this one program fit with all kinds of SEALs? Will SEALs be able to work well in larger groups, even if everyone is of different rank?
However, these questions were gradually resolved as we interviewed a representative from Whole Health, Ms. Chaka Morgan. We were introduced to the idea that while their current offerings include martial arts disciplines that target an older segment of the population, there is a current gap in the market for helping transitioning veterans, instead of veterans already out of the service for an extended period of time. This interview helped mold our current value proposition canvas at targeting the specific demographic of transitioning Navy SEALs.
To further mold our MVP in deciding what specific martial arts programs we are looking for, we went on field trips to the UCSD and Kearney Mesa VA and conducted over 20 interviews, coming upon the conclusion that Kung Fu is a viable option for transitioning veterans because of its combination of focused exercise and mindfulness practices, as well as a vibrant community. Now please enjoy a more in-depth look at everything we have done through our presentation.
Alrighty, good evening everyone. We're Team Neurodynamics, and in this past 10 weeks, we conducted 20 interviews with our original problem statement coming from SOCOM, and they challenged us to develop a therapeutic solution for PTSD using martial arts. And in the original problem statement that they gave us, it was just very broad for special operators. I would like to introduce our team members. The top left is our mentor, Dr. V. My name is Gabriella. I was the information gathering for this quarter.
I'm Stephanie. I was in charge of the presentation slides.
I'm Yo-Yo. I am in charge of interview outreach.
My name is Grisha. I'm in charge of weekly log. My name is Leonardo. I'm in charge of the interview log.
Alrighty, to first start talking about our journey, I'd like to show you our first ever MVP for this quarter. Initially, we wanted to conduct surveys and expert interviews aimed towards special operators, but not just special operators. We wanted to also survey jiu-jitsu and martial arts instructors
as well as PTSD therapists. And in the beginning, we had 3 potential MVPs. We had a VR AR set that would instruct martial arts through VR AR targeted for younger Navy SEALs. And then we had classes that would be on site with psychiatrists available. Sorry, can everyone hear me? Okay. And then lastly, we thought maybe grouping classes with combat teams that Navy SEALs are already accustomed to. We'll talk more about it in a later presentation. To begin with our MVP, we had our first hypothesis that Navy SEALs would benefit most with taking small classes with both a personal trainer and a psychiatrist available. Later, when we conducted our interviews, we had a new hypothesis where Navy SEALs will benefit more from a program designed to cultivate a sense of community and impart mindfulness techniques that they can use in daily life.
Okay, so I'm gonna walk you guys through the pivots that we had throughout this quarter. So like we mentioned earlier, we began with a virtual reality idea. So where Navy SEAL veterans could use a virtual reality sort of game to incorporate martial arts into their lives. But what we realized after a couple of interviews and our own research is that a big component that was missing from this is the community aspect that is so crucial in the healing process. So after that, we started thinking about the idea of a martial arts class that works in tandem with psychologists. So having psychologists there on site. But we were also told that this wouldn't be the best idea of incorporating different like fields together, and it would might actually be like more triggering or yeah. So that's why we decided not for that one after we received some expert information. And then we started thinking about a non-combative martial arts as a way to alleviate PTSD and PTS symptoms. And this was feedback from trying not to trigger the people that are attending these classes. So there was this big thing that we were dealing with throughout the entire quarter, which was what level of intensity we wanted to incorporate in our classes. And ultimately, we decided on martial arts as a way to alleviate PTSD/PTS symptoms for transitioning Navy SEALs that also minimizes triggering a flight or fight response.
All right, so some of our trials and tribulations that we went through our process was once we set out some evals, we did not always get responses. And 2, because we have such a niche idea that we're supposed to solve, we ended up pivoting a lot of times. Nevertheless, we persevered. So in addition to just going to the classes here in the DIB and going on Zoom calls with our mentors and also just interviewing everyone, we also just got out of the building and went on field trips. So the 2 most specific ones we did was going to the La Jolla VA with our advisor and mentor, Dr. V. And we also went to the Kearney Mesa VA where we had a mindfulness breathing class with Michael Nguyen and Raquel Williamson. So through this one, we learned more about our problem statement with our advisor. And through this one, we experienced a martial arts breathing session with an older veteran audience. So after we've done our interviews as well as our field trips, here are the 6 points that we found that helped us advance our project. So the first one is Whole Health offers holistic approaches. So Whole Health is a program that already has some martial arts and therapeutic solutions. However, in addition to that, we also found through our interviews that small in-person classes are the most ideal as they foster a sense of community. And third, no programs specifically target Navy SEALs transitioning from active duty to civilian life. So this is when we realized the market gap that we had in regards to solving PTSD with martial arts. And the 4th one is most Navy SEAL veterans have experience with martial arts. So in regards to this, because they've experienced more combative martial arts in service, we wanted to target less combative ones that will
assist them and not to write their responses. And the last two, we have need for guidance within the program already offered at Full Health. So we want to guide them and help them alleviate symptoms again. And lastly, Full Health coaches are open to new programs. So this, our MVP, could be implemented.
All right, so this is a brief look at our first week on campus. We'll show you some changes we made along the way. So from our week 6 MC, we decided to add on a couple of the more specific areas that we found through our interviews. So for example, Full Health is a subsidiary program of the VA, which focuses, like we said, on holistic and therapeutic alternative therapies. So they offer meditation classes, yoga classes, Tai Chi, other things like that, which is also included at the VA. And also we, again, with our meeting with VA program managers, we decided to focus on retired Navy SEALs that are transitioning from active duty to civilian life. And so this is what we ended up with, and we'll show you a couple more changes that we made. So as we said, our key partners and Full Health that we communicated with many times, and also we were through our interviewing martial arts instructors, we came upon the White Dragon Martial Arts School, and they were very generously offering their instructors and facilities for us to use as just free of charge because of their experience in the past with trauma survivors, first responders. That's something that they really care about. So they've been very helpful and very generous in what they decided to do with us. So, and we also narrowed down our value proposition to make sure that we're specifying this is in tandem with traditional psychology. We're not trying to replace, whatever they're going through with their psychologist, psychiatrist. It's just something they could do on the side, or just something that they can use as an extracurricular, if you will. And then we decided retiring was maybe a little too specific, and we decided to broaden it to just Navy SEALs that are transitioning from active duty to civilian life. And then this is a beneficiary flow to sort of show how we iterated on our assumptions. And so basically, as you can see, we have our original problem from SOCOM, and then we made some assumptions about, what we want to do, how we want to go about this. We hypothesized about the program that we wanted to make. As you saw earlier with all our pivots, we came up with many different MVPs, and we continuing ahead to iterating on that based on the feedback from our, obviously expert interviewees, and that ended up getting us to our current solution.
So our final MVP technical rate as martial arts therapy, we would like to point out several points. First one is offering the clinical crisis managed by volunteers in White Dragon martial arts. Any veterans within 10 years of ending their service, Navy SEAL veterans are of course not eligible for attending the simple screening process. Training focuses on eliminating the situation of fight or flight instinct, promoting mindful growth, engagement in civilian lifestyles. It could also be included as a component of the VA's Full Health program or the Navy SEAL Foundation Warrior and Figure program. After our interview with Ms. Morgan, we have to understand the main challenge in the investment readiness. We understood the main challenge will be the collecting evidence or data to understand what is the most valuable or immediate necessity of our target population, in this case, retiring or transitioning Navy SEALs. And we are interested in pursuing connecting our potential volunteers to the Full Health leadership to start the process of integrating them into the third level. At the end, we would like to thank you everyone and how assisting the program hours, our sponsor, mentor, advisors, and interviewees. They helped us a lot throughout this week in our program. We really appreciate their help, and it meant a lot for us. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. We are from VSBO, Business Services Organizations. And thank you, everybody, for coming. Here's our presentation video.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alex from Team VSBO, and we're here to talk about the military small business community. Military families make many sacrifices for American security and prosperity, and yet they face labor market disadvantages due to frequent moves, unpredictable hours, and rural base assignments. Due to these factors, job searching for military spouses has become harder and harder, leading them to develop skills in entrepreneurship. The national unemployment rate sits at around 6.7%, where 22% of that rate is formulated by military spouses. Here we can see that is because of this large chunk of unemployed community that there are plenty of ways for military-affiliated businesses to develop. In response to this, military spouses are heavily involved in the entrepreneurial field light of various social challenges. For example, in 2021, national survey said that there are 5 main reasons that military spouses pursue entrepreneurial pathways. However, the entrepreneurial journey comes with many of its own distinctive ordeals. The majority of the spouses reported that they struggled with the early business formation process as well as various formalization difficulties. Now we ask ourselves, how might we help guide military spouse entrepreneurs to transform their unique ideas and turn it into a legitimate business? Well, we found that the majority of business scaling challenges stem from licensing, as military spouses frequently deal with relocation, which requires them to apply for numerous different qualifications and documents. This causes them to disproportionately be affected by time-consuming processes of relicensing. So how can we help? Our goal is to create a tool that will be able to help these military-affiliated spouses kick off or continue their journey in entrepreneurship. We want to be able to provide resources, localize information, and connect other members of the community. Here at Team VSBO, the 4 of us are committed to improving the business formation processes for military spouse community. Thank you all for listening to our presentation.
Hello, everyone. We are Group VSBO, or Veteran Small Business Organization Ecosystem. I am Alex. We have Josh over here on the left, Lisa on the left, and Marissa right here. Our mentor, Jim Harvey, unfortunately was not able to make it today. And Admiral Robert Thomas was here earlier. I'm not sure where he's at now. So for our problem statements, we started off in a very vague sense. Our first 3 or 4 weeks of the course was trying to figure out a target group to specify our ecosystem for. And we ended up finalizing it on military spouses and first-time business owners. The top challenges for military entrepreneurs there are 4 things. There's a lack of initial capital, lack of business experience, frequent relocations, and mental and physical health. Business phases where people struggle the most usually are in the early launch and initial growth stages, and that's where we come into play. We want to try and create a tool that these veteran military affiliated spouses will help get their businesses off of the ground. Our team conducted a total of 21 interviews throughout this quarter with 14 different organizations, including VBOC, VIB Network, SBA, and Military Spouse Chamber of Commerce, to list a few.
So in our initial stages, some of our guiding interviews were with Pranita, military spouse, and also Liz Marion from Bunker Labs. But some of our key takeaways from especially Pranita was that she was a first-time military spouse business owner, and some of the hurdles that she experienced personally helped us a lot in guiding our product and what we wanted to fix from these main pain points. And also speaking with Liz Marion, who communicated that the DoD is quite limited in advertising and creating awareness for what's out there. So those were some of the key takeaways we got from our initial interviews. Going on with the layout of our mission model canvas, it started out quite rough, and that's what we had to begin with. We had a lot of ideas, but we had to hone it down to mainly focus on key pain points that we wanted to address and determine what was actually viable, because there were just so many overlapping issues. But we wanted to have tailored guidance, a good network for the entrepreneurs to have assistance with, and just other financials and things of that nature. And finally, with our beneficiary group, like Pranita, we finalized on first-time business military spouse entrepreneurs. And like I briefly mentioned, those were the main pain points that we wanted to address. So that's our final mission model canvas. And like I mentioned, we have our beneficiary archetype mainly based around Pranita, who is our inspiring interviewer. And we also wanted to include, instead of the typical military spouse, male military spouses are actually quite common, and just the big issue of relocating and having a business be online was something that we heard was voiced often. So that was the main goal from this archetype. And some of the main points, just to reiterate, for relocation struggles, awareness for what's around, a limited network, and just financial struggles.
So for steps so far, we focus specifically on addressing needs of military spouse entrepreneurs. We understand their current options already exist. So we're trying to create some sort of database that'll combine a lot of these options and make it much easier for these people to look for. Create an application that is easy to use and easily accessible, and have all the resources organized for these people. Community feedback is essential for the growth of our idea. So using interviews from the 4 organizations up in the right-hand corner, we ended up coming up with 2 questions. And these 2 questions helped finalize our MVP. And it also made it a lot easier for us to pinpoint what we needed to focus on. And that's what we did throughout the rest of the quarter.
Thank you, Alex. So as Alex noted before, 75% of the military spouses actually reported that the most difficult time they have in terms of starting a business is in the early formation and formalization process. So we decided to map out what exactly would a military spouse or a veteran who wants to start their business go through. So usually they start in terms of research and planning, and from there they can usually go to either web-based research, which we as university students know way too well that you can spend millions and millions of hours and still end up fruitless. So they might also go to in-person business consulting, which also has its own reservation, because a lot of times they actually feel that it's very overwhelming, or they don't have a sense of commitment to reach that step. So essentially what we're trying to do here is, how to turn one idea and motivate them into, addressing this as a business opportunity. How might we move from the early phases and get them to launch their business? So next slide. So yeah, we decided to go with a platform-based solution. So with our solution, they can complete a personalized survey, and eventually that survey with their input information will match with specifically user-tailored opportunity, resources, and content. So what that really means is that each individual has their own specific need, and they might be at different stages of business. But what they really need is understand, where to look. And this is a very confusing process, and we're trying to expedite that research process. So next slide. So yeah, during the course of i4NS, we had 3 really instrumental conversations with our i4NS mentor, and that just really helped us, understand what exactly we need to look at in terms of solution formation. So first, we started with Mr. Volko right here. Something that he talked about is we cannot just reinvent the wheel. This solution almost exists in the future and everywhere else. So what can we do that's different? People don't really need a directory of other directories because that's simply just more confusing. With Jim, we talked about, and Jim and Captain Tate, we talked about, narrowing down to the process of how might we expedite this documentation and researching process. So for example, some people are at different stages. So some people have different demands in terms of the specific resources or the specific information they need. Next slide. So this is one of our earlier MVP. The first MVP was actually just scribbles on my binder paper, but I will not share this with you guys today. But yeah, this is a very simple survey in terms of what it might look like. So for example, if they select a specific catalog, they would give us some information. Eventually, we might spit out specific information or content feedback to them. Next slide. Let's take one more. So this is another idea that we had in terms of the formation of a chatbot. So this really helps with people who don't exactly know where to look. A lot of time business starting or entrepreneurial experience is a very lonely experience because you don't have the exact support in the community, because you're doing this by yourself. So when you don't know what to look, it's best for us to tell you, or us to have a guiding system that will eventually, guide you to a step-by-step guide to, achieve whatever you're trying to achieve. So for example, in this conversation right here would be a first-time user who's trying to start their businesses. And as we mentioned earlier, relocation is a extremely or immensely relevant issue to the military spouse community. So for example, right here, they are in California. So what the chatbot will reflect is this the information or tailored information back to them is specifically there to address their need. Next slide. So this is our homepage. On the top, we have kind of a featured event. So each person might be at different location or different stages. So for example, right here, we have an event from Parker Lab that occurred about almost a year ago. But on the left-hand bottom corner, we have this specific documentation they might need to fill out. For example, mobile design or registering their business as an LLC. And right here is more of a navigation board in terms of like the specific resources or the specific events that they can attend that might be close to them, or beneficial organizations that they can reach out to. Here is another feature of our MVP, which is a step-by-step guide in terms of like how might they start their businesses. So right here, we actually create different options here. So to initial business plan, register the business, open the bank account, and obtain licenses and permits, which is really important to kind of understand or visualize where you're exactly at. If you click on one of the buttons there, we will take you to this checklist in terms of like the specific checklist you might want to work on. So I think, from our perspective and talking to all these military spouses, something that's really important for them is to kind of visualize how far along the journey they are at. So additionally, we also have outside resources if they want to refer to that. This is the final slide of the MVP, which is relevant and helpful organizations that they might use. So for example, if your military spouse is a first-time entrepreneur, you might be referred to the Rosie Network or VBOM.
So under the technical component of our proposed solution, we would want to create a website that has a chatbot integrated into it. So for the website, we would just use the free software development tools to create a website, which is the MERN stack there. It's free to code, and it's also for a demo site. It would also be free to deploy. And the chatbot would be the main cost for the year if you were doing a trial. So it would be about $144 a month for 1,500 users, which is pretty good for a demo product. So it's pretty cheap to try out and present. So here's our product roadmap. So basically, the first step would be doing a demo, and then the second step would be applying for funding. The third step would be developing it more fully to cover all of the features we wanted to release. And the fourth one, we would just be gathering resources and additionally partnering with other organizations. Next slide. So basically right now, our next steps would be first, as a nonprofit, we would be able to collaborate with other student organizations to have them help us develop a working MVP. An example of that would be Titan Software Engineering, which is right here on campus. And then next, we would also want to present a working website to the organizations that are helping military spouses as an additional tool to help them. For example, the Veterans Business Outreach Center that we have talked. And then finally, this has just been an overview of our journey so far, starting from week 1 when we were first introduced to this problem statement, all the way to all the interviews we had, the pivots we had, and determining what we wanted our MVP to be. And finally, until now, that we have a clear idea of what our goal is and how to implement that.
So special thanks for all those who helped us along the way. This has been a really fun journey and really inspirational journey to speak with everyone. And thank you guys all for listening.
Thank you guys so much. And for our final presentation, it's going to be Team VC Dashboard.
Gotcha.
Hello, everybody. We are Team VC Dashboard, and I'm about to play our video for you.
How do we play the video?
Once upon a time, in a vast ocean of technology and innovation, our team, VC Dashboard, embarked on a challenging quest. Our mission? To create a dual technology acquisition dashboard, bridging the gap between the Department of Defense and venture capitalists. Our problem sponsor, SOCOM, decided to discontinue the problem, which thereafter gave us the freedom to shape and mold the problem into our own vision.
In the first few weeks, our path seemed unclear. We toyed with the idea of a dating app for VCs and DoD R&D developers, but something was missing. Without knowing our beneficiaries' needs, we found ourselves lost, unsure of who would gain from our efforts. Were we building an opportunity dashboard for DoD to find investors, or a commercialization tool for innovators? The answer seemed just out of reach.
In one of our interviews, we gained insight into the complexity of the DoD's funding infrastructure and the crucial need for non-dilutive capital. Our research led us to the valley of death in the small business investment research funding cycle, where many small business innovators fail to commercialize their prototypes due to insufficient funding. Recognizing this, we pinpointed defense venture capitalists at this critical phase as our key beneficiaries. This insight steered us to identify unique, DoD-specific metrics for our dashboard. We decided to focus on automation and due diligence.
Fueled by this newfound direction, we engaged with defense VCs, uncovering unique metrics crucial for our dashboard. But then, a twist. Our meeting with a key interviewee. He expressed a lack of interest in another due diligence tool. We were warned that the solution might instead lie elsewhere in addressing communication gaps and enhancing transparency within the defense innovation system.
With a fresh perspective, we regrouped and reflected on our approach. Our focus expanded to enhancing transparency, communication, and digestible information for both innovators and investors. We learned that not everything can be automated, and credibility, communication, and risk assessment need a human touch. And so, our journey continues, armed with wisdom and a clearer vision.
All right, so just a quick reintroduction. We are Team VC Dashboard, also known as Team Decon. And we have conducted 26 interviews, 8 email interactions, and then we have 5 upcoming interviews. My name is Kristen, and next to me we have Omni, and over there we have Serena, Andrew, and then Faraz. And for this internship, our advisors and mentors were Admiral Robert Thomas, Rachel Costello, Elliot Schroeder, Stuart Volko, Captain Scott Tate, and Gregory Horowitz. When we were first introduced to our problem statement, our initial hypothesis was that stakeholders are seeking to gain wider exposure to emerging and mature technologies, access to key metrics, and streamlined procurement. And as you go through our presentation, you will see that we've kind of come full circle and addressed many points in our initial hypothesis. In our interviews, you can see that in the first few weeks, we were struggling to find people to speak to. And you can see in the first few weeks that we're also mostly talking to people who are related to the Department of Defense and related to our mentors. But as we narrowed down our beneficiaries and identified that we would like to work with VCs or other types of investors, you can see that the light blue expands and we've begun to talk to more people who we hope that will be our beneficiaries.
So I'll be explaining our journey. So in the beginning, we were given a problem statement that was so broad. We were asked to assist the DoD to identify service-relevant technologies within investor portfolios. We did not know what to do, so we decided, we came up with the idea of a dating app to connect startups with potential investors or partners in the defense sector. In week 2 and 3, our problem sponsor, SOCOM, did not reach out to us or did not discontinue this problem, so we did not know what their needs were. So that's us going down. And then in week 4, we decided that we would mold this problem into our own, we would mold this problem into 2 potential statements. That is, 1, an opportunity dashboard for SOCOM, and 2nd, a platform to help commercialize SOCOM's internal R&D. So excited, we went up, and week 5, we met Jim Harvey, a previous DoD acquisitions officer. He introduced us to SBIRs. So that's when we have our current problem statement, which is we have a venture capital dashboard, which addresses the valley of death problem, which is the disconnect between SBIR phase 2 and VC firms. So it's basically trying to help SBIR phase 2 find funding for their prototypes so that they can continue their path into commercialization. But week 6, we met David Rothstein, a key interviewee. He said he did not want a dashboard, which put us in the valley of death. We were very sad. And then he said that we needed to enhance communication and trust within the DoD innovation ecosystem, which goes to the extended part of our problem statement, where our dashboard aims to streamline the flow of relevant information and also create a more transparent and efficient platform for communication as well as trust. So week 7, we went pretty optimistic, where we started working on the features for the dashboard, which included due diligence, tracking, and market analysis. But week 8 and 9, after doing a few more interviews, we realized that we need experts to assess SBIR credibility. So far, our journey has a lot of ups and downs. In the very beginning, we had a roadblock because SOCOM would not provide us with further guidance for our dashboard development. Then we had a panelist, Jim Harvey, and he talked about the SBIR programs, which led us into researching more about the value of debt issues, and that's how we've come up with our current problem statement. Turning point was David Rothseed, who said that we needed to have communication and trust implemented in our dashboard. Then we have our Stuart Wolcott, who emphasized that we needed experts to do due diligence and also assess risks of the SBIR innovation. So our upcoming journey would be to contact OmniSync and have potential partnerships with them.
So this is our initial mission model canvas, and I'll go more in depth into how it changed. So initially we had a very vague idea of what we wanted. We knew we wanted some kind of scoring metric, but we didn't know what metrics to use. So over time, as we went through more interviews, we noticed that a lot of our interviewees were repeating like the same topics over time. So we tried to graph that feedback and then incorporate that into our new value propositions. And one thing to note is that a lot of our interviewees mentioned team and advisors a lot, because a lot of our interviewees believe that the success of a business is largely dependent on who's on like the board of advisors and the team of that business and how dedicated they are to their cause. And then over time, we also narrowed down our beneficiaries. Before, we had no idea who was going to really benefit other than the DoD. And then now our beneficiaries are venture capitalists and SBIR innovators. And then for key resources, we were able to narrow down to a couple of databases that we can use for our actual dashboard, like the Silver Awardee database.
So this has been our MVP journey. We thought we wanted a dashboard until we talked to David Ronsi, who said he didn't want another due diligence tool. But then ultimately, we realized that we needed to facilitate trust between DoD offices, and that should be the main focus. And that obviously includes including experts in our company's operations to give due diligence metrics. So this is kind of how our initial MVP will work. First, we're going to extract data from important APIs, specifically the PitchBook API as well as the SBI awardee database. And then we'll process the data and create appropriate visualizations for the data. Experts will help us create. Next slide, please. So this is what I really want to focus in on. So when you're an investor that signs up for our platform, you're going to input a bunch of tags into your profile, kind of like how LinkedIn has you do it when you're setting up your LinkedIn profile. Then we'll give you a bunch of recommendations from the SBIR awardee database, as well as the relevant tags each company includes. These 3 companies are actual companies we pulled from the SBIR awardee database, as well as real information about them, including the company highlights we have down below. Next slide, please. So let's take the middle company, Ariti, for example. So when I click on Ariti, I'll get taken to the landing page, which is the performance overview. Here, I'll have historical revenue performance, as well as a market analysis of the industry they're positioned in. I'll also have an overview of the financial health, which includes growth projections. And then we'll have the experts create a technology scalability overview, where they'll do a deep dive onto the actual abstracts and research processes behind the product development. We'll also include a company overview, a deep dive into each individual executive member of the team, which we found out through our customer discovery was essential in investing in business. The financial health of the business, the forward guidance the executive team is offering, as well as the potential list of users and buyers that the company can go to once the product is delivered to market.
In terms of next steps, our team has decided to keep pursuing the dashboard outside the i4NS program to eventually reach the level of investment readiness that we think we're not at yet. And we seek to do that by continuing to identify beneficiaries of interviews, do further testing of our current assumptions, look for more attractive features, specifically like predictive modeling, and lastly, focus and hone in on used companies. In regard to our business model, we're going to keep the dashboard free to use and rely on investor analytics and click data to kind of generate revenue that way, similar to how Google and Meta handle that out. With that being said, on behalf of Team Decon, everyone here, thank you so much all for coming. We want to give special thanks to our mentors and our interviewees for helping us get to where we are today, because without them, we don't know where we would be. So yeah, thank you all.
I like to thank you so much. That was a great presentation. And for some final concluding remarks, Rachel Costello.
Actually. So, again, thank you everyone for making time out of your busy schedule to be here. This is part of our history time. Weeks of memory. And thank you, Tammy, for all coordinating and fantastic spread. Thank you, Doug and Nico, for helping us with recording this, and Paul, as always, thank you for letting me do what I want and have them without results top performance. And again, thank you, Brian. Thank you, John. Right. And thank you, Jeff and Scott and Austin. Thank everybody, Sue. I'm sure I've forgotten somebody, but and the students for allowing us to take you outside your comfort zone and do something completely different that you might not have thought you would do, and help you learn something. And now you're armed with this fantastic discovery concept. And I wish you all the best.